Hey everyone, this is Chris and Tony's Blood and Donuts.
where we talk about and review your favorite horror movies.
So grab a dozen
And a pint of blood.
and let's talk about the 2017 British horror film, The Ritual.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Blood and Donuts podcast. I'm Tony.
And I'm Chris.
And this... Oh, I just said that. This is Blood and Donuts. Today, we're going to be reviewing The Ritual, 2017 British horror film. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, today is the first day of autumn.
It is.
Leaves are falling.
It's still hot.
It's spooky season. It is still hot.
It is.
Where we are right now, we're filming this in a garage, and it feels very hot.
Yeah.
The nights are a little bit cooler, but I wish the day reflected that as well.
Yeah.
The Ritual. This was kind of like a last minute selection for you and I. We had a couple of movies picked out.
Yeah, we picked movies. We're going to do two a weekend, and then we picked two. We liked one, hated the other. I don't even think we're going to talk about it. And then we're like, hey, we got time for one more. Let's pick this The Ritual off Netflix. And it turned out to be the best one of the day.
Yeah, so The Ritual, they did a very good job with it. It's British. It's very British. Mm-hmm. When we played the trailer for it, I was like, we can watch this, but I'm gonna need some subtitles.
That's one of my points in the negative there. The language barrier, which while it was great, love the film, it was just hard to understand.
Yes, but subtitles make this a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this movie was directed by David Bruckner, written by Joe Barton, adapted the 2011 novel The Ritual by Adam Neville. The film stars Rafi Spall, I think I'm saying that right, Arshur Ali, Robert James Collier, and Sam Troughton. The Ritual had its world premiere at the 2017 Toronto International Film Festival on September 8th, 2017, and was released in the United Kingdom on the 13th of October, 2017. We watched it on Netflix, though, didn't we?
We did, yep. And you're saying that was a book, a novel?
Yeah, it looks like it was a book back in 2011, and it was adapted.
Check that out.
Yeah. Really, it was just a really good film. I just love movies that are set in the woods.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you could do so much with it. You know, there's a lot of mystery there. You can, it's wide open, a lot of area to cover. Just a lot of mystery with that.
Yes.
I agree.
Camping, woods, that's scary stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Blair Witch Project. You think about The Evil Dead. You think about Jason.
Yeah.
All those guys. It just the camping, all that stuff. This sets it up really well.
And I had that on my comparisons to the Blair Witch and the Last Broadcast, which I don't know if I've showed you that, but that's actually what the Blair Witch came from. It was a derivative of, or it took a lot of what the Last Broadcast did and made the Blair Witch.
I did not know that.
And this movie kind of went off of that too. Not that it's about just one. It's about one entity, but it kind of saves the reveal for the very end.
Yes,
and I liked a lot.
Not only that, but like in the Blair Witch Project, there was a lot of like relics hanging in the woods.
And this had that too.
This had some relics.
The effigies
So
and also spoilers, by the way, we will be talking about the beginning, middle, and end of this entire film. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out and then come back and listen.
Absolutely. And as always, stick around to the end. We will give our rating, 1 donut all the way up to
13,
which is a baker's dozen. So we haven't revealed a 13 yet, but go ahead and subscribe and listen to all your favorite horror films and see how this one matches up to the others. So this movie starts, you got 5 old friends from university is what it says. You can tell it's British just saying that.
University. Just say college.
Just say it. They went to school together. So you got Phil, Dom, Hutch, Luke, and Rob. They meet over some drinks at the pub, and they discuss plans for a group trip to catch up with one another.
And real quick, Rob is the main character. Is that right? He's going to last a real long time.
Yeah, Rob is going to last the whole entire movie. Rob, you would think he would, but I mean, he's a good, strong character. So later in the evening, the group is exiting the pub, and they pass this shop, and Luke is like, "Hey, guys, let's go in here. Let's go in here and get a bottle of liquor.
Get a cup of vodka.
And of course, none of the guys want to go in. They're like, "Oh, I gotta. No, I can't do that. I got kids and I got a wife at the house."
We love British people, by the way.
Yeah, that's a horrible British accent, but you know what I mean. Finally, he coaxes Rob to go in there with him. And while they're in there talking, Rob to the group before they go in the liquor store suggests a trip.
Yep.
A camping trip in the Swedish mountains, I believe.
Okay.
And again, the whole group's like, "Wow, we're gonna hike. That sounds awful." And nobody's really on board for that. But anyway, so they go into this liquor store, and they find this girl. The cashier is like behind. She's in distress.
Yeah,
and
she looks like she's terrified there
she's
behind the
terrified.
counter.
And then you got two armed men, but two armed men in Britain is not the same as two armed men. They have something in their hand,
It's
right?
like a club or something. It's not a knife or a gun or anything.
No. So, which is still pretty bad. But they ask for all of his stuff. They ask for all of Rob's stuff. Luke hides before the robbers see him.
Yeah, he hides behind the counter, and we'll revisit that a lot. But yeah, he kind of chickens out and leaves Rob kind of standing there, just with the miscreants.
Yes.
And he's left to defend himself.
Yes. And then the robbers, so he gives up his wallet, he gives up most things, and then the robbers ask for his wedding ring. And he's like, "I'm not going to give up my wedding ring." And they're like, "Go ahead, give it to me," And I don't know.
It wasn't diamond or anything, and like, who cares? It's a wedding ring.
I know, but this is to establish that he's.
Mine's made of silicone.
I know, but this is to establish this dude loves his wife.
Oh, okay.
He's a family. You know what I mean?
So it gives you a whole 10 seconds to get attached emotionally to this character.
Yes.
Before they bludgeon him to death.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they do. So like they're like, "Give me the ring." He's like, "I'm not going to do it." And Rob kind of looks back for like Luke to have.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, Luke, come on, man, let's go get these guys." And Luke's like,
Luke.
I think Luke's already soiled himself. He's out of it.
Yes. Now Luke is holding like a bottle of liquor, and you could tell like he thinks about it because he puts it in his hand like he could use it for a club,
like he's gonna use it as a weapon.
and he doesn't.
Nope.
He doesn't.
He
So
unscrews the cap and takes a swig.
Rob gets hit, not once, twice, dies, and it cuts from that scene to you're in the Swedish mountains.
Yep.
So this is I think it's about 6 months later.
Okay. And yeah, and none of the other friends died either. And apparently Luke got out of there unscathed after that. I guess after they killed Rob, they just kind of left. And so all the remaining friends kind of go on this journey to honor Rob.
Yes.
Who died.
Now, on here it says Kungsleden, or the King's Trail, and Sarek National Park.
Sounds right.
The film was filmed in Romania.
Okay.
So take from that what you will. So they have this hiking trip, and obviously you see that it's to honor them, but you don't know what the friends know about what happened in the liquor store.
Right. They kind of leave that open to, whether they think it's Luke's fault or not.
Yeah.
They're just kind of
absolutely.
And Luke obviously is he's going to pass the buck.
Now they revisit this so much, the liquor store and what happened.
That's one of my the cons. There's way too many flashbacks throughout the film, and not just now. I mean, they show that big entry, and that's the big kind of setup for the plot to go forward. But they go back and revisit it. Too many flashbacks to the liquor store. That's one of my two, negatives here.
Yeah, and so Luke is kind of like your main character, but you start off hating him, and by the end, I don't feel like I like him enough.
I agree with that. He's not the antagonist or the protagonist that you would kind of want.
Yes.
In the film.
Yes.
Because in the beginning, let's be honest with each other, it's all his fault.
He sucked.
It was his fault.
Dude sucked.
He could have easily swung that bottle of pop-off vodka.
Yeah.
And took out one of the bad guys.
He could have done something. They made him look really bad.
Yeah.
So they kind of I don't know if you remember this, but when they do honor him, they have a picture of Rob, and they kind of build like this little altar thing.
Yeah, a little put it on some stones, and
I
he's
don't
taking a swig
I
of
don't know if
vodka.
that has anything to do with like because you have the ritual. It's called the ritual, and I don't know if that has anything like the worship and the and the memory and all that stuff. If that it just kind of maybe foreshadows.
Could be. Yeah, I like that theory. It does foreshadow the later in the movie with what goes on in the village.
Yes.
Yep, I agree.
And but you're also you're first introduced, but you're really introduced at this point right off the bat. So you're finding them at the end of the trail.
Yeah, they're done. They've hiked all day to go
Yeah.
out and have a drink, and they're gonna camp out. And then they
camped out. They woke up the next morning.
Yep, and they see a village in the distance, and they're like, "Hey, that's our next destination. Let's cut through these woods
and
here."
go. And we're going home. We did it. We're going home.
Yeah.
And then I would say if it's even possible, an even more annoying character than Luke. You have Dom.
Dom. Oh, really? Yeah. Dom is okay. So I've kind of likened myself to Dom. He's a little overweight. He easily twists his foot in the forest, foreshadowing, just by walking. And then all of a sudden he's down on the ground grabbing an ankle. I've done that like 5 times at least just playing disc golf. So easy to do.
But
a lot of people look down on it.
While you're watching it, though, you're like, this ain't good.
Yeah, this is how you drive the plot forward.
You're like,
this guy's going to slow everybody down.
And he does.
Yeah, and
so
I did too.
They end up alternate route through the forest, off the trail.
Quickest way to get to the village that they can see in the distance, which
Right.
doesn't look bad. I mean, you can kind of see it just past the forest.
Absolutely.
So you would think a straight shot through these woods, it's good to go.
Yes. But it's a horror film.
Yep.
So you know something bad's
Something's going on in there.
You feel it. They decide so it starts raining. That's what it is. Torrential rainfall. And and they're just like, and they're lost.
Yeah,
it's not going as good as they
They're just
thought it
kind of
would.
looking for shelter at this point.
Yeah, and they're like, let's set up. Am I allowed to do the British
I think so.
accent?
As long as you preface it with "We love
I
British
love
people."
British people.
Yep.
I love Led Zeppelin.
And
I
we're
love
going-
Queen.
Yep,
I love the Queen, King Charles, all that stuff,
and the Queen.
and the Queen. I love it all. So anyway, they're like, let's set up,
Let's pop a tent.
hey mate, let's pop our tent
and
up.
have a cuppa.
Yeah, but so instead of popping up their tent, they find this creepy ass
Cabin.
cabin.
Yep, it's a cabin in the woods, and so they, they're just really just trying to get out of the elements at this point, and they go find a cabin, and they kind of barge in. I think they have to. Don't they have to kind of break open the cabin?
I think so.
Yeah,
And what's cool is they find these creepy necklaces hanging on the wall that depict similar symbols of the ruins that they found carved on trees throughout the forest.
right. Yeah, there were a lot of carvings in the trees, and they kind of didn't know what that meant. And then when they got to the cabin, these carvings were kind of just manifested into like stick figures, a la Blair Witch.
Yes, and then they go up to the second story, and arguably one of my favorite scenes is when he opens up the attic space on the second floor, and there's like this carved human torso.
I think it's like a stick or twig effigy of something, some kind of idol that.
And then there's antlers. Mm-hmm. It's just creepy, and the way they do the shot and the music and stuff, you're just like, oh, this is not.
It's really good. This movie really does a lot of great like build up of the tension and the thriller type stuff.
Absolutely. And so like you feel like something's wrong, and I think one of the guys, I think Phil actually mentions that that's witchcraft is what he says.
Yeah, probably a little more British than that, but yeah, I think you're right.
And so during the night, the four all have nightmares.
Yeah, and then yeah,
go ahead.
That's my favorite part is when they wake up in this cabin. So they each, they fall asleep. Luke, who is the antagonist / villain here, because he let his friend die. He wakes up in the woods. He's walking in the woods and he gets stabbed in the chest. He wakes up in the cabin and he sees his friends are kind of, one's having a really bad nightmare. The other one is, I think, just kind of crazed and out of it. He doesn't know where he's at.
One pees his pants.
Yes. The one who wakes up from the nightmare is Hutch, and he's the one who kind of peed his pants, but that's a really great scene. It really sets up the psychological tension part.
Yes.
That something's really going on in these woods.
Yes.
That you wouldn't expect.
And it kind of like it puts Luke in a very special position. He's outside. He's dealing with stuff. He actually dreams. You see his dream, which is obviously the market, the liquor store, everything that happened to us. And again, you see it so many times to the point where you're just like, oh, okay, that again.
The old liquor store.
Yeah. And then so which one was missing? We have.
I think Phil was upstairs. And that's where. So Dom was the one who was kind of in a trance. He was freaked out, looking around the room.
Yeah.
Luke came in from the woods. Hutch peed his pants, and Phil was upstairs naked.
Yes.
And he was kind of worshiping, and that was the coolest probably scene of the movie. He was kind of worshiping that twig effigy.
Yes.
Upstairs on the second floor. And that was really cool. It just kind of really scattered the guys and made them all each have their own kind of fears going on.
He was like in a prayer position in front of the effigy, and it was
looked
just
really cool.
Yeah, it looked really cool. It was really creepy at that point, and you just kind of Chris and I just kind of looked at each other and like, where is this going?
Right? Like, why didn't we watch this earlier?
Yeah, and I have to say, like, it goes a little bit weirder than I thought it would. You know what I mean? You see, they started seeing things in the woods go by and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was the first thing they saw in the woods was maybe even before the cabin. They saw like a cow or a steer like strung up in the trees.
Yes.
And then
I forgot about that.
I think Luke, who he killed his friend, he went up to, he kind of was like, hey guys, I see some light up here. I'm gonna go check it out. He goes up to the top of like a ridge or something, and he sees like a hand behind a tree.
Dude, that was so creepy.
And that's what one of the best points of this film is that they keep the mystery of the final bad guy, the final monster. They keep it really secret, but they kind of tease you along the entire way. And they do it really well.
I love that. And we talked about the Blair Witch Project. You don't even see the Blair Witch.
Not at all. Not even at the end.
No, you just see him in the corner. You see, and like, again, I'm getting a little bit of chills just talking about it. But I mean, that hand, gosh.
Yeah, it's just the hand. You see the hand briefly, and then it just kind of blends in with the rest of the background.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, that was a hand.
If I was going to have a con, I would say you almost see the monster too much in the end of this movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. It was creepier until you saw it.
Right. It was really well done, though.
Now the monster was creepy.
It was really well done.
But it was CGI.
What?
The monster?
It was CGI? Okay.
But I did like the face. I did like the hands and the chest and stuff. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Skipping ahead.
So
spoilers.
So at that point, Luke goes up to the ridge, like you said. He sees the hand. Everybody's getting really frustrated with each other at this point.
Yeah.
And I wonder why.
And they're starting to blame Luke at this point. I think one of them, maybe Hutch.
Dom.
Well, Dom, yeah, that's correct. Dom is like, hey, man, well, it's your fault that Rob died.
Yeah.
And while we all know that's true, Luke doesn't think so.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And Phil is just kind of, so at this point, really,
to your point, Dom. I think he says he goes. You left that liquor store that night and you didn't have a scratch on you. You didn't do, you know what I mean? And it pisses Luke off. He kind of pushes him and stuff like that.
Right.
But as the audience, you're sitting there like, well, that's true.
Yeah, I know I was.
Yeah.
I was really mad at Luke the entire film.
That is the truth.
But yeah, at this point too, you kind of, Phil and Hutch, while they're still there, they kind of take a back seat to Dom, Luke, and the monster. So yeah, Phil and Hutch are still there, but the story starts to kind of center around Luke and Dom at this point. I
Absolutely, think. Yeah. And then later that night, Luke is woken from another nightmare.
Was it another liquor store flashback?
What do you think?
We've only had like 5.
Discovering that Hutch's tent is empty. The three rush deeper into the woods. That's smart. Following Hutch's screams, by dawn they realize that they have become even more lost and cannot recall where their campsite is or was. They decide to continue their search without their tents and supplies. The three come upon Hutch impaled on a tree branch, and that was pretty disgusting as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
That was a cool scene.
But you kind of expected it there, whereas like Hutch was kind of. Okay.
He was gutted, much like that deer that you said at the beginning. I forgot to mention
strung
that.
up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good like foreshadowing of how this creature kind of treats its victims.
Yes, and at that point, they had to bury him like an impromptu grave.
Did they really spend the time to bury him, or did they pulled him down and everything?
Impromptu burying by covering his body with tree branches.
With Dom with the
they
bum
pulled it
leg
down.
and
They
stuff?
put some tree branches over it.
Oh, well, that's about what you can do.
You don't want to leave him strung up like that.
I mean, maybe.
I probably would. At that point, I would
think
just
one
be
of
running.
them. I think Dom, who's kind of like my spirit animal in this movie. I think he was probably just like, "Hey, just leave him. We'll come back later."
Yeah. No, I think it was Dom who's like, we're not going to leave him like that, are we? We're not going to leave him.
You have to.
Yeah, and then Luke at this point is like, yeah, I can't leave another friend.
Yeah.
Luke leaves Phil and Dom on the lower part of the ridge, climbing a hill that provides
Sounds
an overview.
familiar. Luke left his friends again.
That's
for
a very
something.
Luke thing to do.
This is like the whole plot driving here.
He realizes that they are relatively close to the edge of the forest, and he also spots smoke rising from distant campsites. So he rejoins the two to tell them the news. And he finds them that their flashlights pointing towards the tree, saying that they heard a noise. Suddenly, Phil is dragged off the screen by an unseen creature. What do you think about that scene?
And so that's where Phil goes. And it was kind of at that point, I've already kind of written Phil off as well, because you could tell the story.
He was minor.
Yeah, the story wasn't really driving around him anymore. So
The minute he was in that closet worshiping
right.
that effigy, you're like, he's done.
Yeah, he's not going to last very long. But you would think he was doing the right thing by worshiping that. I mean, if we were stranded in the woods and we found some weird ritual items, he's just kind of got to start praying to him and hope for the best.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you. I'm not going to do that.
Well, one of us is going to live.
Upon seeking a hiding spot, Luke encounters Dom, urges him to run with him. They get to their feet. They begin to run. The creature is giving them chase.
And you still can't see it, though.
No, you
there's
still can't see
nothing. You can maybe see some leaves moving, trees shaking, but there's no visual other than the hand that we saw earlier.
Yes.
I think that's all you've seen so far.
Yeah, you don't know what this thing looks like, what's going on.
Maybe you can hear it a few times.
Yeah.
And I think that's a brilliant way to introduce it.
I love that. I love the mystery of horror as much as the scariness and
Right.
the creature itself and all that good stuff. So they're running out. They pass Phil's impaled body on the tree branches, much like the deer and much like their friend Hutch. They seek shelter in the first building that they see and collapse on the cabin floor, only to be beaten unconscious by its occupants.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of captured at this point now.
Yeah, it's over with.
Okay. Yeah.
When they awaken, they find themselves restrained by their hands in a basement, and an elderly woman enters the basement and inspects the puncture marks on Luke's chest. She pulls down her dress to reveal that she has a similar pattern on her chest. Now, explain this to me. The way I took this is he was chosen.
Yeah, that sounds right because he was walking in the woods on the whole nightmare night. And it looks like the creature maybe chose him. I think the creature might like people who let their friends die.
Was he chosen to be spared?
That sounds right. Yeah, because they didn't seem like they were going to do anything else with Luke.
Yeah.
It was like Dom is going to die. He's the sacrifice for tonight.
Yeah, the people knew that.
And you, Luke, you're going to join us.
So that lady who had that similar thing on her chest, we're guessing that maybe she was with another group at some point, and then she was chosen.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, I think
And maybe
you're right.
all of I don't know.
Well, I think you might have had a small village or something, and then the creature just maybe waits for travelers and
Why don't they
foreigners
leave?
to. I don't think they can.
They're too scared.
I don't think they can because again, spoilers obviously. But at the end of the movie, when our hero flees, there's a barrier that this monster can't cross. So maybe he's got them in some kind of thing that they can't go past a certain.
That's
like
interesting.
A fence barrier area.
Never thought about that. I'd have to go back and watch that. She turns to leave the basement. She utters a command in a foreign language, which prompts two men to grab Dom, bring him to the upper floor of the cabin. A younger woman enters the basement, explains the preparations are being made for the sacrifice. Sometime later, Dom is escorted back to the basement, beaten. He's bloodied, but he's still alive, and he explains to Luke that he will serve as a human sacrifice to the creature and instructs him to find a way to escape and destroy this village. Now, at this point, Dom and Luke this is where they have their peace.
Yeah, I think so. And Dom really doesn't give Luke anything else. He's just like, destroy the village. Well, that might just put a few people out of the house, but I mean, that's not really necessarily going to destroy the monster. But and it might be later in the synopsis there. But someone goes upstairs and finds some straw creatures or something, some stick figures sitting in a chair.
Yeah, and burns them.
Right, and that's kind of what triggers the next part of the plot,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So Dom is taken outside of the cabin. He's brought to wooden posts where his hands are tied behind his back. As the day shifts to night, a roar can be heard from the forest. The captors immediately fall to their knees and they start worshiping. Dom has a vision of his wife emerging from the trees and holding his face in her hands. This is, in reality, the creature that has been pursuing the men, and it bears a resemblance to the wooden effigy that they discovered in that abandoned cabin.
Right.
The creature removes Dom from the post, impales him on the branches of a nearby tree. So you kind of see like how these victims that they've been finding in the trees and in the forest, and obviously Hutch and
Yeah, because he impaled him while he was still alive and screaming, right?
yes,
Right. And yeah, I remember, and this was kind of the first reveal of the monster itself.
Yes.
Like everything had been shaking and roaring until
Right.
now. And
I remember asking you at one point. I was like, "Is that just a buck?"
Right.
It looks kind of like just a big.
It's like a big deer.
Yeah, it looks like a big deer because it uses like shadow. It looks like a shadow or something.
Right.
But then when you get closer, the chest, it was almost like eyes, and then there was like these human hands that kind of reached
It
out.
had big horns and small hands.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was interesting.
Apparently, it was the Jotun, which is Norse mythology.
Interesting.
I read that.
The monster is not my favorite. The monster was fine. It was great.
I think it was the build up to the monster that was better than the actual monster.
Yeah. Like I was telling Chris, I was like, this movie is good. This movie's really good, but I feel like it could have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
If we didn't have to use them dang subtitles.
subtitles. I didn't like after about 15, 20 minutes, we were fine with that.
Right. And then we left it just speaking British.
Oh, we were speaking in British for the rest of the night, of course. The creature removes Dom from the post, I read that part. Sorry. When Luke asked about the creature, she explained that it's called the
Jotun.
I'm going to let you say that. Godlike figure stemming from Scandinavian mythology, and they provide its sacrifices in return for immortality. She states that Luke will take part in a ritual where he will submit to the creature and join the cult, or he will be killed as well. So these people, we don't know how old they are.
No, the people in the village seem like they have either been there for a long time or they're just immortal like this creature.
Yes.
And they just kind of live to serve him kind of deal.
Maybe that's why they don't leave.
Could be. Yeah. They kind of worship and provide, and then they're spared.
But they don't look happy.
Otherwise, this monster would have just killed them all anyway.
This doesn't look like a fun existence.
Right.
They don't look like they have Wi-Fi.
Right.
Or video games.
And they can't go get some groceries or anything.
To be honest, they don't even look like they could take showers.
I don't think
they look a little rough.
Yeah.
After she leaves, Luke breaks free from his restraints, leaves the basement, and he ventures to the upper floor of the cabin, hearing prayers and screaming coming from behind a closed door. Armed with a burning torch, he opens the door, finds twisted congregation of mummified but still living humans.
And that's probably my second favorite scene, I think, is where he finally figures out that these people are linked to these other effigies, if you will, and then he realizes that he can just, hey, let's start here with the fire.
Yeah, let's
burn this place.
Let's start getting rid of this. I like that because I mean those people are just as.
Yeah, sure. They're just and that might be why they probably are immortal as long as those stick figure effigies are living in the attic, they're probably just fine to live forever as long as nobody messes with them.
It says here it's evidently the end result of the immortality granted by their worship of the creatures.
Yep.
Following Dom's last wish, he sets the worshippers alight, is what it says here. This act attracts the...
Jotun.
I like the way you say
Why
it.
did I get
He goes,
nominated for that?
the Jotun.
The Jotun.
The Jotun. Who emerges from the forest to find the cabin burning. In a rage, the creature kills the remaining worshippers. Luke uses this opportunity to escape from the burning cabin undetected, armed with a rifle and an axe.
Where did he get those? Just laying around the house.
Picked him up at that point,
Okay.
and he runs out of there. I forgot about the monster like killing the people at that point.
Yeah, I think he was kind of in a rage at that point, and he was kind of just killing everything to get to the guy who's causing all this stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's a very tense part. I do remember Luke's running around. You're like, is this Jotun gonna get him?
Yeah.
Before running into the woods, Luke aims and takes a shot at the creature as it's about to kill a worshiper. The creature pursues him, attempting to cripple his mind by causing hallucinations of what? His reoccurring
Maybe
nightmare from the liquor
okay,
store.
The liquor store. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like the fifth time too many. It's really that's one of the major downfalls of this movie. But I still really enjoyed it. But yeah, the flashbacks once it got to like the seventh one, were like, oh look, it's the liquor store again.
Another flashback. Yeah. The creature eventually catches him and forces him onto his knees multiple times, offering Luke a chance to submit. He uses an axe.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
Wow.
I don't remember that.
Maybe we were just...
This must have been really fast.
Yeah, it might have.
He gets an axe, which he had previously taken from one of the worshippers, to strike the creature on its head. He then follows the sunlight. I do remember that. Sunlight emerging from the forest in an open field. The creature does not emerge from the tree line as it seems unable to follow.
And then they just have like a shouting contest at each other.
The monster roars at him, and he screams back in triumph.
And Luke roars
Luke turns
back.
from the monster and heads in the direction of a paved road with a passing car and the sign of civilization.
Because really, Luke is just really thinking like, man, like not only did I let the one friend die and I got away with it scot-free, I let like 3 other friends die.
Like, how do you face their families at that point?
Yeah, you're like, hey, we all going camping and I mean, you're not going to believe this, but we had this Jotun thing and everybody else died but me.
Everybody
is gone.
So it ends with Luke in triumph, but what we don't see is the trial that that happens.
The aftermath,
yeah,
where he knocks on the family's door and reveals that he was also the fault of everyone else's death.
Right.
Not the Jotun, but Luke himself is just he's really a bad person.
What is the moral of did he face his fear? Is he not a coward anymore? Is that what we're looking at with
I
this?
don't get it from that. That's not what I gathered.
Yeah.
Again, maybe he's brave now.
He's brave now.
So when he gathers more friends, because he doesn't have any now.
No.
Maybe later when he acquires more friends and then the same situation happens at the liquor store, he's going to say, you know what? This time I'm going to swing that bottle of vodka.
What's funny, like I think they all have family.
Sure.
I don't think he does.
He must not.
So, like, if anybody should die, it should be this guy.
He should have been the first one.
These other friends, they have family, they have wives, they have kids.
I miss Rob.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it just ends in a weird way. But you know what? Horror films do that.
Yep.
They don't have closure. They don't have to.
Yep.
And so that's why it's still a really good horror film.
Yep. And for our ranking system there, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 13.
9 donuts.
Donuts, yes.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, because I really did enjoy the suspense, and I think there was a jump scare somewhere that actually did kind of get me. You know, we're kind of immune. We've seen 100 horror films, and the jump scares don't really get us anymore. And some you can see coming from a mile away. But I think one of them, we were watching it, and I kind of twitched a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, that got me." But I liked the suspense. I liked the build up to the reveal. So 9 out of 13 for me.
I have to agree. This is a really good horror film. You're going to love the woods. It was beautiful scenery. I think the director did a really good job. The actors do a really good job.
Yep.
It's a creepy movie. If you like horror, you're going to love this film. They could have done a little bit more to make it. It could have been a great film. It could have been 11. It could have been a 12 donut. But I'm going to give it 8 donuts today.
Okay.
Which I think it's a really good film. I think you should watch it. The Ritual, 2017, on Netflix right now. Watch it.
Yep. I agree.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Blood and Donuts. And please subscribe. We're going to put out more episodes. How often are we going to do that, Chris? Bi-weekly?
I'd like to do bi-weekly if we can.
Okay, so subscribe to us if you like what we're putting out. Give us a review. Tell us how we're doing.
Comment.
And
we'll read it.
we will read it. So tell us how we're doing. We'll see you next time. This is Blood and Donuts with Tony and Chris.